Hello, guys. Welcome to the closing panel, the AI panel, where we talk about AI agents, agents for analytics, SQL agents, and many more. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We have Suresh from PA Networks, Ryan from Demandbase, Harrison from Datus.ai, and Ron from CelerData. And also, I'm your host, moderator, Sida from CelerData. So before we actually start, uh, let's do a round of introduction, right? Please, 1 to 2 sentence, introduce who you are and what you do. Suresh?
Hi, thanks, Ida. I'm an engineering leader here at Palo Alto Networks, previously director of engineering at Eightfold.ai. That's where we got introduced to StarRocks. Happy to participate in this roundtable. Thanks, Ida, for having me.
Right?
Yeah, I'm engineering manager here at Demandbase. We adopted StarRocks about 2.5 years ago now, and have been using it ever since to power our analytics infrastructure. And more recently, some of our AI agents. And yeah, excited to be here and chat about AI and how it really StarRocks.
Thank you. Harrison?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Harrison and founder of the Datus AI, which is an engineering agent, and we will open source it soon. And actually, I'm a former product manager of CelerData, and really happy to join this meeting to share something and maybe contribute to the StarRocks ecosystem. Thank you.
It's really nice to have you back. Thank you. Thank you, Harrison. And Ron?
Hey guys, yeah, my name's Ron. I'm a developer advocate here at CelerData. Spend most of my time, empowering developers within the StarRocks Lakehouse community, interacting with folks online in content creation and on the road at meetups. So super excited to talk today with you guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Ron. So our first prompt of the day is when you hear about agents or agent for analytics or SQL agents, what pops into your head first? So what it is to you? Let's start with Suresh.
Okay. So my perspective is, I think with everything that is happening in the last 2-3 years around agents, I think everybody wants to build now agents, which is a good thing. But I think the way people are looking at the products are completely changing. So they want an interactive system. That is one. And the second thing is even the way the SDLC is happening, it is completely getting changed with agentic architectures, etc. Right? What it really means is for these databases, the amount of queries are just going to increase because in the previous world when everything was static, you have predefined or codified your workflows on, this is exactly how I'm going to interact with database. But with conversational agents and agentic infrastructures, so agent kinds of take some decisions, right? I mean, it is kind of non-deterministic at some point, and the number of API calls to databases will increase. That is one. The second thing is, once you give this free form conversational panel in your product, people will tend to type more and more questions on this conversational platforms. That in turn also translates to a lot of complex queries on top of these databases. So what it really means now is all these database platforms, including StarRock, should be prepared for this high QPS queries that can come in any format. And that to me is the biggest interesting research area on how these agents and databases kind of intersect with each other.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, data infra is always going to be here, right? Everything is built based on the data infra, right? Thank you, Suresh. And Ryan, what is agent to you?
Yeah, I think one of the main things that I think about really is somewhat to Suresh's point, like the democratization of all of that data, right? And the industry, I feel like has been working toward that in a variety of ways. The advent of data catalogs like Data Hub and semantic layers and all of these things trying to make data more understandable and more easily accessible by the business, by non-technical users. And this is kind of that big leap ahead to really this like final state of truly being able to fully democratize your data, because now you can talk to it with natural language.
Yeah.
And of course, there's tons of technical challenges there. To Suresh's point, QPS, a big one that we've been running into is around context and the ability to make it understandable so that you can talk to it and get the right answers. But really at the core of it, yeah, when we talk about agents and agents for analytics, it's being able to allow everyone to do that kind of analytics. You don't need to know SQL, you don't need to know the database, and really, democratizing all of that.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that, Ryan. Harrison, what is it to you? You're building it, right?
Yeah, actually, I think the AI really changes the data infrastructure and the data analytics area, and I can split it in two sides: the consumer side and the production side. For just like think about the AI agent, just tools, useful tools to release the power of large language model, because large language model can do quite a lot of things, no matter to call a lot of tools or just to do some reasoning or long-term planning. All of them can do this such kind of things. But for data analytics, we need, just like Ryan said, we need to democratize the data to everyone, as it's a consumer side. And for another side, we want to build better data governance or data. Recently we call it context engineering, right? And build better context for the AI, and to make it possible, no matter it's a metadata or semantic layer or some SQL history, all kinds of metadata context. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Harrison. Ron, what's your take?
Yeah, kind of adding on to what's already been said, I think the number one thing that comes to mind for me is, task delegation to a new level. I mean, it's not just humans writing queries anymore, humans even automating the workflow by hand. It's some autonomous system that's doing this. And with the autonomous system, it feels kind of like a digital version of assigning people tasks. So with that, I think the number one important thing is the underlying infrastructure that comes with it, because as was mentioned, you scale your API calls, you have high QPS, you need something to support that. And kind of on one hand, just throwing an agent at it doesn't necessarily always fix the problem, right? You need the right infrastructure underlying.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Thank you. So what is the moment that make you think, okay, like agent for SQL might actually be something that's real, or that moment hasn't happened to you yet? Suresh?
Yeah, so I think over the last 1 year, I think we have seen several such moments, right? So where it is no longer, it is a reality now, right? So people, as Ryan was saying, people want democratized access to this data. And I have seen a ton of use cases at Eightfold. People, it's a people company at the end of the day, and there's a lot of data that we have about people, right? And many of these platforms, people get lost on how to use these platforms. There's so many reports, there are so much data, they don't know how to navigate. So the GPTs of the world kind of spoiled us now in some sense, right? We don't have patience to go through all this and go to all the reports that we need. We want to instantly type a question and we want to get some answer, right? So that's how we are, psychologically tuning ourselves. So every enterprise product should, think of this from the usability angle, right? So if they want high usability, they need a flavor of this in their product. So what it really means is, you then need to have a free-form question which should directly hit some database or the layers of database to get you this answers, right? So I feel, for not just for me, for many people in the last 1-2 years, this aha moment has happened, and this will instill this curiosity of how to get this done in my enterprise product.
Yes. Ryan?
Yeah, for us, it's one of those things where I think for me it is coming, but it is not here yet. At least not here yet to solve, the majority of use cases. We've seen it internally where we've, pointed this at some of our cleaner data sets, I would say. And it works really well. Like it's shocking sometimes. Actually, one of the things that I don't even know that I've told anyone at CelerData about this. We recently built a query analyzer agent that you would give it a query and it would run the query plan and look at, what things could be done better. How could you change this query to be more performant? And it was shocking. It was incredible what it was able to do and the suggestions it was able to give based on the query plan. But then you pointed at some of our other data sets that have these context problems that aren't really understandable, and the whole thing just falls apart in dramatic fashion. It cannot figure out what column to use. It can't even figure out what table, and it all just kind of comes crumbling down. So, in those ideal states where your data is clean, your data model is understandable, and all of those things, it works so incredibly well. It's almost hard to believe. But then those further cases, that other 50, maybe 75% even of cases where the data is not ideal, because we know what that is like in so many organizations, it comes crumbling down in such dramatic fashion, at least in my experience. So it's one of those things. It feels like it's coming. It's going to have huge value, and if you have the right data model, if you've done the work ahead of time, you can get value now. But it still has a lot of way to come, and there's a lot of just data modeling and data work to be done to enable that as well.
Yeah, that's similar, similar feeling for me too. Actually, like a year ago, right, we heard about the agent stuff, right? We said, agent, higher concurrency, lower latency, right? That's gonna be the challenge. But the challenge is I can't find my columns. I can't find my tables. Yeah, it was actually like pretty shocking to me personally, like a year ago when that happened. But it actually make a lot of sense, right? Context is a very, very difficult problem to solve, and actually, I have a prompt later to talk about exactly that. So thank you, Ryan. And Harrison, like for your customers, what works and what doesn't?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think firstly, it depends what kind of target user you want to put this agent into the real world production. I think the first the large language model can't cover 100% correct, because next token prediction is not really even 19% is difficult actually. So if you want to put this kind of product into an end user who can't evaluate the results, that may be still some problem, or maybe some of the customers try to using that, and we pay a lot of effort on this area, but it's still a very small area, maybe for very few table and with fully managed some semantic layer to describe, to fill the gap of the natural language to the SQL. And the other side, if we put into the producer side, which means for some data engineers or some software engineers, we saw large language model can do some kind of vibe coding. And even we found that our product is something like a cloud code for data engineers, and you can using this to generate the SQL in multi-turn conversation, and also we can automatically to build some context for data engineering. So that will make it possible for some area, especially to improve the efficiency of the data engineers, or to deliver some self-serve chatbot for data analysts. So first, we still want to find some scenario the customers can evaluate the result or give the feedback if the result is correct or wrong. But a large language model can really follow the instruction and to record the suitable context to build a better result. Yeah, that's some of the better lesson.
That makes a lot of sense. I think we still need like human in the loop, right? Either human in the loop, to verify the result, right? To have something to fall back to, or you have to build like guardrails to make sure the model behaves like it's designed to, right? We actually have a prompt for that too later. Just hang on. Ron, what is this to you?
Yeah, so I think it is really all about context, because if you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out from the agent. I mean, you have to curate your environment well for an agent to have understanding of what you're asking. If you have a warehouse, but you have 15 versions of the same table, and you say, "Get me the table," it's not going to know what to do, right? So to a degree where even a non-technical user may not question the data they're receiving back. So it's important to, it's real, it works, but you have to understand that what you're feeding it is what you're getting out.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. So the next prompt is, could you share one business use case where agent for analytics is already making impact? Or whose approach you think in the industry to AI agents is the right one? Suresh?
Yeah, so I'm going to share the same use case that we did at Eightfold, right? So uh, we in people space, there's no single report that is going to solve customers use case, right? I mean, all of you guys have used some flavor of Workday or any other people company in the past, right? And some of you are probably familiar with the complexity of the reports, right? Every company needs different customizations of the report. So customer facing reports is always a challenge, no matter what enterprise product it is, because the needs are completely different. And people have tried this use case of, hey, I'm fed up with your asks. Here is the data warehouse. I'm going to dump everything into a data lake and data warehouse. Go do whatever you want, right? And that is better than giving you some pre-canned reports, but that still has limitations because the end user have to have a data engineer. They'll have to build their custom dashboards and reports using Power BIs and Tableaus of the world. So there's nothing that beats a simple conversational analytics platform where you can just ask questions in free form text and it will give you answers that you desire. And maybe we have use cases where you simply say you want to present something at the end of the quarter, right? So simply upload a base template of your PPT, and we will give you a presentation that you want from all the data that is there in the data warehouse in the format that you care about, right? So there are a ton of use cases that we started playing around, and obviously with the good context and tuning and whatnot, right, we were able to get decent results. And yeah, I feel every enterprise reporting product will see a good benefit. I mean, I'm only trying to give you use cases where there's a usage of database as well, right? Data
Yeah.
warehouse as well. But if you remove data warehouse into in the picture, there's ton of agentic use cases that I
Yeah.
can see value. But enterprise reporting is one area that will see an immediate benefit.
Yeah, natural language power like customer facing
Yeah,
dashboard. That's something
yeah,
that sounds really sweet.
yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, something that that Demandbase is working on that's along the same lines is one of the big kind of core objects within Demandbase is lists, which is this concept of essentially it's a filter, and then that will create list of other objects in our application, accounts and persons and these people that you want to advertise to and sell to. And Demandbase has kind of been approaching it from taking that reporting and one step further, and not just asking questions about your data and getting back some information, but then being able to take that and make a list out of it. And then once you have that, you can then do all of these other actions within the Demandbase platform. You can use lists to run orchestration, in LinkedIn or Salesforce. You can use lists for site customization functionality within Demandbase. So not just doing the reporting aspect, but using that filtering to power fundamental objects within the platform that then allow you to do other aspects and actually do tasks within the platform that the platform is meant to build, beyond just reporting and dashboards and things like that.
That's really interesting. That's like fueling other sorts of tasks like with agentic flow. That's really interesting. Thank you. Harrison, what about like your customers?
Yeah, I can talk another side, I think, and actually, yeah, including excluding the customers who want to build some customer-facing user interface or user language interface for their product, and for data engineers, they also have some scenario could use make full use of the agent capabilities. For example, we have customers, they're really large customers, so they have a lot of data requirements, and they hire employ some outsourced staff to help them to building SQLs, and but for some special fit topic and only maybe a few, very few or single one people can do such kind of data analytics, and they depend on that. But this kind of knowledge is not so we build some better context with them, and just one guy maybe can cover more requests than before using the agent. Yeah, that's really improves the efficiency of the data engineering. Also make some untrusted SQL more reliable. We can add a SQL reviewer at the end of the pipeline, and maybe before they launch this SQL into the Infra scheduler, such as Airflow, and they can confirm the whole data engineering in pipeline better. And it's kind of a data governance job, but it splits all the responsibility into each data engineering pipeline. Yeah, that's an interesting use case.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And Ron?
Yeah, so obviously we have the perspective of
Yeah.
self-service, and on a dashboard, whether that be MarTech, AdTech, user self-serving. But some place where I've seen a unique perspective on this is search, enterprise search across organizations. So you have these products coming out now, or companies making this in-house, where in the past you'd have these siloed wikis for knowledge that teams wouldn't have access to. Now you see teams centralizing this information in some sort of model, and now information about a specific team is easily searchable. So I think it's a big leap for documentation. You can now automate API calls, whether that be from your GitHub repository or your literal SQL commands that you store, and it takes a big load off of engineers in the knowledge search aspect. So I think that's a unique spot where I see this coming into big play.
Thank you, Ron. And let's shift gear a little bit. Talk about the pain points, right? So what is the hardest part, for you, or bottleneck about running those analytical agents in production? Suresh?
So our biggest challenge has been security, right? So we are a multi-tenant system, which means all the data is in a single data warehouse. Of course, we have shards as the scale grows, all that is there, but there's always a point where you have several enterprise customers' data on a single machine, right? And security is paramount for any enterprise company. And we, as a service provider, we make sure that no customer data is getting leaked to other customers. But when you bring agents into the picture, so it is and most of these agents are hallucinating models, right? So they are not deterministic models. So I would there's a fine danger here. When if there are no guardrails kept in place, people can do all sorts of programming mistakes with agents, and we can start exposing data that people are not supposed to see. It doesn't have to be multi-tenant data. Even within a single organization, there's always different levels of security where people are not supposed to see the data that they are supposed to do. For example, in people company, right? I mean, if I'm given access to data, the first question probably one would ask is, what is the salary of my manager, right? So so how would you stop things like that? So I don't think, I mean, this is an area of research. It is continuously evolving, both in terms of the AI security as well as the agent security. But those lines are, I feel, the toughest challenge: the governance and security.
The governance and the security. Okay, makes sense. Right?
Yeah, so government security is definitely a big part of it, and maybe a little plug for CelerData to an extent. One of the ways that we've been solving that, because we're also multi-tenant, we have a single large CelerData cluster that has all of our data, is taking use of the row access policies and solving. There's one of the things that I've found with agents, but with a lot of things, is it's one of those things where when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So you have an agent, you want the agent to take care of the whole life cycle of request and forming the query and then running the query and ensuring the query is correct and is secure and et cetera. And that's always the right solution, right? Like there's aspects of these problems that should be solved with traditional, I'll say, like engineering approaches. And that's one way that we've done it is for our agents shouldn't necessarily be concerned about, is there a proper predicate to only get one tenant's data back. That should be at the database level and at a security level where we know that it will always work correctly. We know that it will always be secure, whether it's from an agent or from something else for that matter. So that's the way that we've kind of approached that aspect. And then for us, like the biggest problem, as I've said before, is context. Like our data model, in part because of the type of data that we work with, because it's ingested from customer source systems like Salesforce, and because Salesforce is notorious for being a very, very dirty data source where every customer has tons of custom fields and all of this stuff. We have a very, very dirty and hard to understand data model. So gathering that context of what are fields for, what do they mean, how should they be used, going further to like what is the taxonomy of a specific field. One example I use a lot is around like state. If there's a state field and a user says, I want accounts in California, how does the model know if the state field is the word California, if it's an abbreviation, if it's the 2-letter abbreviation or a non-standard abbreviation? How would a model know what to actually use in that query, and what the taxonomy of that is? So all of those context pieces, what tables should be used for a given query, what columns should be part of that, and how to use those columns with what values are there, and et cetera, has definitely been the biggest hurdle for us when it comes to a lot of our data, and has been one of the biggest pieces we've been trying to solve by data model improvements, additional like layering on top of that, metadata, a semantic layer, all sorts of things like that to try to enhance and fix that fundamental context problem that we're fixing.
Thank you. Harrison, I know you guys are working on something special, for context. You want to share 2 cents on this? Share thoughts on this?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, yeah, I think the accuracy is the hardest part and the bottleneck of the agent, and the key to improve the accuracy, it's related to 3 parts. I think the first is you need a model and large language model, and to release the capability of the large language model. For example, recently we have better agentic model for coding or SQL generation, and we should use some of the agentic loop driven by large language model itself to improve that. In this case, large language model get better, we can got benefit from the model, no matter is to using the state-of-art large language model, or you to do some kind of reinforcement learning for post-training open source large language model. Yeah, that's the first part. The second part is the context building. I think that's the most important thing in agent side, and but the context have in data engineering or data analytics is really huge work. We have such kind of metadata, some kind of data sampling, or even some metrics. So all kind of we are trying to using SQL history and some success story already in customers system, no matter it's a dashboard, and maybe dashboard have a title, a description, and a SQL, and that's the best material for large language model to the data source of the context. And we try to analyze all kind of SQL history, and to give some summary and label, and categorize them into some, put some label on them, And also we can learn from a success story. It's which means they can offer a SQL answer and a question, it's a specific question. We can learn the metrics from the such kind of material to build a better knowledge base for the agent. And in this kind of process, we still using AI native ways to generate, but maybe it's not still not 100%. The engineer or analyst should confirm for the keep the last mile. But if we provide a good verification tools or validation tools, I think most of the state-of-art sort of language model can get some pretty good results. Yeah, maybe they will to generate a matrix and verify the format, and then to query the matrix from the YAML file they generated, and then to compare results. Yeah, that can the large language model can. We try to using large language model itself to build a better context for the data engineering. Yeah, I think that's the second part. And the third part is how to interact the human and the large language model to make them a better human in the loop experience. I think they also have two kind of interaction. The first one is the human ask large language model to follow the instruction, give some feedback. For example, large language model analyze a lot of table and generate some SQL results or some report, and human can give some feedback to fix the necessary and bugs. And another way is that large language model need to double confirm with the human, no matter maybe they can involve some tools just like update a data, update a table, or do some changes for database, and they need a double confirmation. And even some large language model also have some confidence. We can analyze from the logs, and to if the large language model is not very confident with their results, they can also ask for customers for better plan. For example, just like the deep research in OpenAI, and they will clarify the requirement. Is that really what you want? And try to double confirmation with the customers. So that's the three hardest part in my mind. Yeah, the model, the context, the interaction. Yeah.
Yeah, the context that was really interesting, Harrison. I'd be curious how you all are approaching, like variant types, like JSON. That's one of the big problems that we have, is because of the way our data model, for a variety of legacy reasons, is formed. We have fairly large JSON blobs, and that tends to be one of our biggest context problems, because they're in a lot of ways entirely opaque and can vary so highly across rows. So curious if you all have approached that problem at all, or what you've done there in terms of, not well-formed columns like integers, but variants like JSON.
Yeah, I think if you talk about the JSON type, I think it needs multi-step to do the column exploring for large language model. We don't have such kind of a specific function for this, but for some test cases, we can find that we just leave it some tools to the large language model. They can explore the JSON format. If JSON is really large, and maybe it will, we just give a JSON function to large language model, and they can do it step by step. But for each I think that's it's a kind of tools, not a context building part currently. And we just large language model can just select one row and in a large JSON object, and maybe it will truncate by our tools, because if the context is too large, and the large language model can try to do some add some JSON paths and to query another time. But it's a kind of ad hoc queries. But I think it's a good question for how to build a better, just like a better index for large language model for special type. That's another topic. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Ron?
Yeah, I think everybody did a great job kind of explaining where it is in a production ready state. I mean, where it definitely, in my eyes, is in more of a demo state is, maybe three spots. I mean, the first one being that governance and compliance area. Just coming from previous financial services experience, I mean, having an agent, look over very raw data without any role-based access control, lineage or auditability. That's still something that a lot of institutions are trying to tackle. And, especially since a lot of environments today settle with pre-curated views. I mean, that's a whole nother issue. I think second, where it kind of lacks in some ways is its way to iteratively reason, in that, especially as your window increases, as your tokens increase, it's great for, in the beginning at least, with the one query, one response. But as you grow your window and you keep asking an agent more things, especially in ensuring that the agent remembers what you're saying, as Suresh said earlier, it's very easy for it to hallucinate as well. And third, I think it's not the greatest in its ability to storytell yet. I still think we need a human in between there for strategic storytelling. The model can explain, why some metric went up like 10%, but explaining why still requires the human intervention in my eyes. So
that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. So like without human in the loop, a lot of the use cases, we still need to build guardrails, to make sure that the large language model don't do anything that's unexpected and harmful, right? So to you guys, what guardrails are must-haves, before you let an agent execute actually SQL queries, in your production system, unsupervised? What kind of guardrails you expect to build before actually going to production? Suresh?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is explainability, right? I think given that we are doing this enterprise AI products, whenever there's a question of leak or security or whatever it is, right, you should be able to explain that your agents have not done unintended access, which means you need a clear observability and auditability of all the queries that agents have done, right? And you probably have to use all the standard AI tools, observability tools to do that. That is one aspect. And the second key lesson probably we have learned, probably not in a hard way, we had this thought process right from the beginning, is, as I was telling in the previous answer, we never wanted RBAC to be part of agents, right? As Ryan was saying, RBAC should be out of the agents, whether you implement in your database layer or you implement in your microservices layer as a static entity. That has to be completely static, right? It has to be 100% working based on the expected behavior. And everything else outside access control and RBAC and whatnot, right? I think we can do it with agents. It's okay to hallucinate, but assume that your RBAC layer will catch you when you do unintended access. So these are the two things, in my opinion. Know what can be done using agents. Maybe not everything can be done using agents. So utilize where they are good at, and especially when RBAC is involved, don't code it for using agents. And everything has to be explainable, right? That way you can continuously iterate.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? So only let the LLM do the job they're actually good at,
Yeah.
right? That makes a lot of sense. Right? What kind of
Yeah, for
guardrail?
us, yeah, it's like a few different things. So when we take the question as as generic as it is about SQL queries, the very first thing that comes to mind for me is absolutely no write operations. So no DDLs, no DMLs at all. Read only connections only. You've seen the Twitter post or whatever, dropping a production database, or whatever else. So absolutely no access there. Like that I think is the first, very kind of hard line that we have drawn of, destructive operations that can change things, are a non-starter. We're just, not there yet in terms of actual guardrails, not there, and in terms of need. So that is, kind of no. First off, then for us, to Suresh's point, the things that LLMs do well, have them do it. The things that they don't. And then the last one, which is maybe kind of a little bit different, is not so much around the LLM, but approaching these problems of like a lot of queries or high volume queries or queries that can be very heavy, by having them be served by separate non-critical infrastructure. So for us, what this has looked like is we have a production StarRocks cluster that we load our data into so that we can get the latency that we need for our application. However, for a lot of our LLM-based stuff, the queries are not going there. Instead, they're going to an Elastic cluster that is querying data directly out of Iceberg. So this is a separate infrastructure reading from a separate place that if an LLM does do something bad, if suddenly it sends 1,000 really heavy queries where it selects star from one of our largest tables and it takes down that cluster, like, yeah, that's not great, especially if it's a production agent, but it's ultimately not going to take down our entire application. It's not going to take down our entire stack. So by segmenting some of this, by understanding that there's that inherent risk and inherent variability and planning for it in our actual infrastructure implementation, we can be a little more lax in other areas in terms of what kinds of queries can be made or whatever else. So those are some of the like approaches that we're taking.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think guardrail, databases play a part into that too, right? Before it's human, right, do a lot less crazy stuff, and now we need to think even more about how do we place large queries, right? How do we do actually physical like resource isolation, right? Those are becoming even more and more important because AI probably gonna make a lot more crazy mistakes than human do, right? And with the amount of queries they run, we need to be prepared for that on the database side as well, right? Thank you, Harrison. What are some of the guardrails your customers are building?
Yeah, I think this point is similar to the above. And I think the first one is all the write operations should be confirmed unless it's a recoverable test environment or something really not necessary, not important. And no matter it's a DDL or DML, update, delete, or we need to confirm downtime. But the next side part is that our agent is a kind of cloud code just to helping you to put the code into your editor, and you just push the button how to decide the data engineers to decide whether to execute this execution. And and the third one is that we are really want to exploring something helpful, maybe to make use of the for example, Iceberg plus StarRocks, and we can use some branch or time travel capability to make it recoverable for some small agentic loop. If it's failed, maybe we can recover from the last the snapshot. That's also possible in the future. Yeah.
Thank you, Ron.
Yeah, just adding on to kind of what Ryan said, I like the idea of kind of decoupling your components. You don't want some monolithic infrastructure where an agent makes a bad query, everything goes down. I think just in general, scoping by domain. That's why we have data marts, right? Scoping by domain, so your agent isn't talking to the whole warehouse, and just having provisions on query costs and resource limits in general. I mean, we have the tools today to do that. Having timeouts, limits on what your agent can touch. That can all be provisioned. We have the tools for that. So just those two things come to mind immediately.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you. We're almost at time. So one last prompt before we close. What AI is going to affect the data engineering profession? Suresh?
So, I mean, everybody has a different take on this. I mean, see, I don't see AI as a threat at all, right? I mean, contrary to few people's opinion, I don't see it as a threat at all. So, every once in a while, we will have advent of a massive technology like this, and the only key is adoption. Not just in data engineering, right? In every place, it is just going to augment you. It is going to improve your efficiency. That's how I'm going to look at it. The way data engineers used to operate in the past, right? They will start introducing agents in every part of their SDLC. That's all it is, right? And they'll find new ways to unlock value from the data that is there, right? I don't necessarily see it as anything else. So yeah, I'm quite excited for what agents can bring in the data engineering space.
Thank you. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a similar opinion of, it just like in many other spaces is going to automate away a lot of the toil right now. A lot of the things that are not the fun things to do or not the things that we all want to be spending time on. We can more easily automate those away. The other aspect to that too is, like we've talked about a lot today, a lot of the fundamental problems are still data engineering problems that need to be solved to even enable agents to be able to work with this data. So there's still, in today's day and age, like so many fundamental data engineering problems that if you don't solve them, agents just don't work. So you need to solve those. You need to have people to solve those to even enable the use of agents. So I do think it will fundamentally change the way things work, as it will with software and many other industries. But ultimately, there's a lot still that needs to be done before they are even possible.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I don't think like new tools ever eliminate a career. It's always the people with the new tools, right? So definitely, learn those new tools and embrace them, right? Harrison?
Yeah, I think the first point, the AI may change the data engineering deliveries. Previously, the data engineers just responsible to create a table and to do some ETL jobs from one table to another, and finally put it into the data mart, and the data analysts can use it in BI tools to drag some dashboard in for the business. And currently, we have more and more new kind of workloads for data engineers, because AI chatbot and even some other agent need the correct data from the data engineer. So maybe they need more semantic layer attached to the delivery tables in the when they want to put it into production, and also they need some effective API for other agents and some hidden service. So this really changes the delivery, some new capability or new requirement comes. Yeah, and the second way is how they work, and I think everyone using AI to help them to do some coding job, and I really think that the ideal of the future data engineering is something like maybe they can building more better and better context for the agent, and the agent can deliver some result, because agent is more you can talk to agent with any question you want. But if the engineering building a better context for agent, and that will make their life more easier. And but no matter the consumer side or producer side, I think data engineer is still responsible for the last mile for analytics, because large language model can't keep 100% accurate, and they still need data engineering to review the final results, and that is very important. No matter we deliver a final product into a production or collect some trajectory of the problem to improve the model to use it in RFT or SFT for post-training of the large language model. That's also very important for data engineers. So I guess that in the near future, data engineering have some new capability, and the old actually writing SQL itself is not the most is not the hardest part for the data engineering. There are quite a lot of other things to do. Yeah.
Thank you. Ron?
Yeah, I kind of share a similar opinion to everyone. I mean, I kind of have to, considering we're all engineers here on the panel. We can't say it's going to change it too radically, but yeah, my outlook is positive. I think, like you mentioned, Sida. I mean, when a new technology comes, the job just changes. I mean, when the calculator came out, people said math was done. I mean, why do you need to learn math anymore? But we still have accountants, right? It's just they're not doing manual sums anymore. I think the data engineer of the future just becomes a different role. I think you become a part-time data engineer, part-time product manager, part-time SRE, part-time governance arbiter. I think you just the role transcends, and I think that's more empowering to data engineers now because they don't have to write boilerplate anymore. They're thinking higher level. They're thinking strategic. So I think that's where it comes in and changes the game.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. That's the last prompt, and that's the end of the panel discussion. So thank you so much, our panelists, Suresh. Thank you, Ryan, Harrison, Ron. Thank you. Thank you for joining this, making this amazing discussion. Thank you, and thank you, the audience. Thank you for making this, and hope you guys enjoy the conversation. All right. Thank you.